After hours at the aquarium, I used to think aquariums slept. Lights off, pumps humming, fish doing slow circles, like clocks that forgot the time. I'm 26, a night aquarist at the city aquarium. One person in a building of glass and water. My job is simple. Log temps and salinity, check skimmers, toss a midnight feed to the nocturnal tank, and never, ever turn on the exhibit lights after 10 p.m. The other rule from my boss, Tamsin, don't prop the service door by the shark tunnel. If it swings itself shut. Let it. At 11:18, the building felt like a sleeping animal, breathing through the pipes. I clicked through cameras from the control desk, reef, jellies, river, and let the compressor's low rumble settle my shoulders. Normal. The first weird thing was small. The label printer chattered by itself and spat a glossy strip that read, "Please do not tap the glass. We print those for field trips." Not at night. I laughed and stuck it to the edge of my monitor because superstition looks better as a joke. At 11:42, 2 taps sounded from somewhere in the dark. Soft knuckles on acrylic, not a drip, not a pipe thud. I stood and listened. The second pair came from a different direction, a beat later, like an answer. "Building settling," I told the air, and took the test kit to the back of house. Behind the exhibits, it's a maze of catwalks, hoses, and sump rooms that smell like ocean and pennies. The jelly gallery glowed faintly, moonlight through milk. As I walked the service corridor, the motion lights popped awake in a line ahead of me, then off behind me, like a polite thing showing me the way. The radio on my belt hissed. I almost called Tamsin to say the repeater was acting up when a voice, wet and careful, syllables lowered into place one at a time, said, "Leave the lights." The transmission cut. I told myself some tour handheld got left on. I clipped the radio higher so it could hear me breathe. Someone had pressed a handprint on the inside of the viewing panel. 5 long ovals and a heel, dragging down a few inches before the smear thinned. Visitors do it all day on the outside, not inside. My scalp prickled like it remembered the sun. I wrote "odd smear" inside Jelly's pane in the log and moved on, because moving on is a job. The shark tunnel waited, an acrylic tube under a 700,000-gallon dream. At night, the tunnel is black except for exit signs and the green LED on a breaker box, and your own reflection following you like a patient ghost. The service door at the tunnel mouth was shut, latch fully seated. If you've never stood under sharks with the lights off, it feels like lying under an ocean you can't name. Shapes slid above me without light to give them edges. The pumps thrummed. One of the sand tigers drifted close enough that I felt, ridiculous but real, the weight of its attention. I kept my eyes forward like I do when strangers stare on the train. I flinched and looked up in spite of myself. The red exit sign wrote a wound into the acrylic. A palm met it from the other side, full and sure, like a swimmer greeting a window. It slid, slow, trailing water in a smear that thinned and vanished. No diver, no bubbles, just the feeling that the tank had learned a new trick while the lights were off. "Stop," I told the glass, because sometimes your mouth has to touch the air, or the air will touch you first. Back at the desk, the label printer whirred again. "Leave the lights off." I didn't stick that one anywhere. I checked the automation schedule. No overnight signage jobs. The timestamp in the corner of the strip read 3:13 a.m., even though the wall clock said 12:19. I made coffee, the kind that tastes like a burned idea. The reef cam jittered. One sign, a laminated card, We zip-tied to a stanchion, sat at an angle it shouldn't. As I watched, it turned a degree, like fingers finishing a thought, and lay flat. The radio cracked. Don't feed. The voice had the slow weight of a diver talking through a full face mask. The nocturnal tank gets a midnight squid scatter. Skipping it means cranky eels and a grouper that sulks in a cave. Copy that, I said to nobody, which is how lies sound when you've decided their safety rules. At 12:37, the shark tunnel pump threw a brief low-flow alarm and reset. Normal during power blips, except we didn't have a blip. I took the catwalk ladder to the top of the tunnel to check the skimmer. I leaned over the foam and watched brown scum tumble into the collection cup like the tank emptying its pockets. Something moved in the overflow box, a dark shape where only water should be. I aimed the flashlight and saw a face for a fraction of a second where reflection shouldn't. TB, pale, smoothed, wrong at the eyes like a varnish that never cured. The beam shook. The shape dissolved into bubbles. I swallowed the coffee back down. Okay, I told the pumps. Okay. I closed the access and forced myself to write a real note. Brief low flow, skimmer normal. Possible shadow in overflow. Likely glare. I decided to do the feed anyway. Label printers be damned. Because starving animals is not a superstition. In the nocturnal room, it's always night. A sign on the door. No white lights. I pushed through with the red headlamp. I peeled squid into the surface and listened to the water grab it from my hands. From the far end of the room, the bucket wash sink tapped twice, measured, patient. Bathroom pipes, I said, to the tank, to myself, to anything listening. It was open 2 inches. The latch sits proud when it's truly shut. I hadn't opened it. I pushed it with 2 fingers. It closed soft, like a mouth deciding not to form a word. At 1:11, the building changed its mind about noise. The compressor hushed. The skimmer motors went thoughtful. The whole aquarium seemed to hold a breath. My skin pulled tight against my bones. The radio whispered one word in the gap where sound should be. Under. I didn't want to know who under was for. The label printer coughed a 3rd strip. Do not tap the glass. The shark tunnel camera froze, jumped, and returned with a smear across the lens. 5 long ovals and a heel. The same hand learned in a new language. I walked back because pretending the tunnel would walk to me felt like a worse idea. Halfway down the curve, the emergency lights flickered on for a heartbeat and off, the way a room tests its own heart. In that flash, a figure stood in the acrylic, like a person behind a shower door, head tilted, lips parted as if pronouncing the first half of a sentence. When the dark settled, I felt it at my shoulder, even without eyes. Leave the lights, the radio said, close enough to feel in my teeth. I won't turn them on, I said, because bargaining with rules is how you stand up without running. Something tapped the tunnel behind me. 2 soft knocks that landed so precisely between my shoulder blades, I nearly pressed my face to the acrylic to get away from the idea of it. I kept walking until the tunnel let me go, and the service door kissed shut behind my heel with a soft, deliberate click. I didn't sit again. I walked. Reef, river, coast. At 3:13, because of course, it was every camera feed blinked once, and in that blink, I saw my own reflection in each screen, and behind it a second reflection, with its hand poised to meet mine through the glass. The printer spit a final strip. Leave the lights off. I put that one in my pocket and didn't feel stupid about it. Dawn made the lobby blue. The pumps remembered how to hum together. Quiet? She asked. I handed her the night log and the damp labels. She frowned at 313 on the margins, like the number had stained her eyes. Kids sometimes tape those prints inside, she offered, because kindness is saying the lie out loud, so the other person doesn't have to. We checked the jellies panel together. It was clean. The handprint had dried into nothing, or decided air wasn't a home. I left my employee badge on Tamsin S. desk and kept the leave the lights off strip in my wallet like a saint card. In my apartment, I don't keep a fish tank. The bathroom mirror fogs a little higher than it used to when I shower, like a palm resting on the glass from the wrong side. At night, the radiator knocks sometimes, 2 precise taps, and I tell myself old pipes do old pipe things. If I wake at 3:13, I don't look at the phone. I keep the lights off. I walk the length of the hallway without turning my back to the dark, palm held an inch from the wall, as if there were glass there to meet me. Sometimes the building breathes in a way that feels like a room full of water holding itself in place. The lights. And I do.
If you survived this far, leave your like to prove you are not afraid.